Somebody sent in a question. They said, I don't believe God / the universe / the mystery wants us to suffer. I don't believe it has to be part of the human experience. I understand what you said before about creating the gap through meditation so that suffering doesn't need to bring us to breaking point, and then the gap in revelation. That makes enormous sense. But what about loss and grief, the big stuff? I still don't think God meant us to suffer these immense crushing blows, yet we do. I feel there's just a piece of the puzzle we're missing, and if we could just find it, even grief wouldn't be suffering. Many would say I'm naive. What do you think, John? So if you're listening and you don't know what this person is talking about this gap and suffering, in a previous episode I was talking about that we live in a culture that glorifies suffering, that no pain, no gain, that kind of thing. Like when the person was using this language of immense crushing blows, it immediately reminded me of that movie Shadowlands with Anthony Hopkins, where it's about the life of C.S. Lewis. And at the beginning, he's giving these talks about life and God and that kind of thing. And he's saying that the blows of God's hammer are so hurtful, they hurt us so deeply, yet they make us pure. That's in essence what he was saying. And then the story goes on where he falls in love, and then his wife gets cancer and dies. And so he has to kind of live that, what he was preaching about. And it's that thing of like, it hurt, but it made me stronger. It made me who I am. And what I was saying was that that's not actually true. In my observation, we have lots and lots and lots of pain, and then something happens and we break. Something breaks inside us. So in that C.S. Lewis thing, it's like the loss of the love of his life, his wife, her dying. He's on the floor, he's crying openly, and something happens, and he has an insight. So we've had that experience, lots and lots and lots of pain, and then something breaks inside us, and then we realize something. And then we look back and we go, well, I wouldn't have had that realization without all the pain. And I likened it to like a train, and each train, the carriage of each train is full of pain. And when you look back along the train, it looks like they're all connected. But when you come around to the side, you see there's a gap between each carriage. And it's in the gap that the insights come. And what I was saying was, when you don't glorify pain and you just see where the insights happen, they happen in the gap, then through meditation, you can make that gap, that stillness, where what happens after you break, when you let go of things, then you can see that that's where the insights happen. So you can make that the focus of your meditation, and you can have the insights, and then you're not glorifying pain for its own sake. So I don't know if there is a piece of the puzzle that we're missing. I'd love to be able to go, oh yeah, here's the piece of the puzzle you're missing. Because yeah, we do, don't we? We suffer these immense crushing blows, irrespective of knowing that, me included. From my knowledge of God, and for me it's important to kind of make the distinction between belief and knowledge. I don't believe in God, I know God, because belief always feels to me like, well, belief is something that you can't experience, and I experience God very directly, and I have for a long time. And that sounds lovely, but it's not. It's not that lovely, because the sort of indoctrination I received about God was this, old man God sitting on a cloud up in heaven with the white beard who knew the number of hairs on my head kind of thing. Very personal, very, keeping an eye on me and sort of sending me lessons and all that kind of thing. My knowledge of God is completely different. My knowledge of God is, I talk about the mystery of a lot. That's what the mystery is in a way. And I was only writing about this last week when I was talking about manifestation. And I was talking about, likening it to one of the friendly bacteria in my gut. And if I was to have a conversation with that friendly bacteria and say, well, what are you part of? And they go, I don't know what I'm part of. I'm part of a bigger thing. And I just know about being a friendly bacteria. And my focus of my life is just to be the best friendly bacteria I can be. But beyond that, I don't know. And I was kind of going, that little friendly bacteria wouldn't understand about the sort of things that that I know about, like air travel and paying the gas bill and quantitative easing and all that kind of stuff. It wouldn't have no comprehension of it. And I feel kind of the same way about my knowledge of God. I know I'm part of God. I know it's in me. And I'm just using the word God. Even the word God doesn't really, it's very loaded. It doesn't really convey what it is. It's this huge, vast, mysterious thing that seems to be doing something. It seems to have a particular movement to it that seems to be going along with, a particular purpose that it only knows. I don't know what it is. So like the idea, like from my little perspective, I don't want anybody to suffer. If I was running the show, I wouldn't have anybody suffer at all. And my sense is that there's an element to that whole process that is to do with unconsciousness, because that definitely seems to be what's going on. We all seem to be in the process of becoming more conscious. Now you could say, oh well, look, I know my Uncle Jim, he's definitely not becoming more conscious. He hasn't changed a bit, But in my observation, it goes on inside people all the time, whether they know it or not, whether they're conscious of becoming more conscious or not. It doesn't make any difference. It's going on. They are becoming more conscious. You can see it through the passage of time. People call it getting wiser or getting more mellow. I mean, people can become more bitter and whatever, but it's not a uniform thing. There seems to be consciousness happening all the time. So possibly that's what's going on in terms of God and what the point of God is. And there's our other schools of thought that go, oh, non-attachment, all suffering, comes from attachment. And yes, there is there is an element of truth in that, but then that's kind of the deal here. We are cuddly little creatures who like to cuddle each other. We like to get attached to each other. And yes, it hurts like hell when the thing that we're attached to gets taken away from us. But that seems to be kind of the deal here, because you've probably met people who have they've just gone straight into spiritual bypass and they're like, oh, I'm not attached to anything, and all that kind of thing. But you can tell that it's a defense thing. They're just trying to protect themselves from getting hurt. That doesn't seem to work either. And then I haven't really met anybody who is above it all, who doesn't react, who doesn't respond. And my sense is you're kind of supposed to. It's kind of the deal here, I always think of cinemas, it'd be like going to the cinema and spending the whole time watching the movie going, this is just shadows on the wall. This isn't a real thing, Like, who wants to do that? Either nobody wants to go to the cinema with that person. But even for that person, it's like, why are you in the cinema if you're just the whole time going, this is not real, this is not a real thing, this is just shadows on the wall. So I think there's part of it that we just want to have the experience. We want to get right into it. We want to have the big loves and the big losses. I don't know whether we want to have the big losses, but they happen. And we have the big heartbreaks. And they change us. They definitely change us. So I don't think it's a good idea. I'm not crazy about it. I don't advocate it. I'm not saying, oh, it makes you tougher. But it just seems to be a thing here of it. And what I've noticed in myself is that through meditation, I'm able to see all the different parts of me at the same time. I'm the container, in a way, of all these things. So when the crushing blows happen, I can see the part of me, the least conscious part of me, that's just heartbroken and devastated and on the floor crying and just uncontrollably grieving. And I can also see the part of me that is very detached and knows it's not real, and that knows that, in the analogy of a virtual reality, that we're living in a not completely real situation, that it's just pixels. It's not a real thing. There's a part of me knows that at the same time. And both can exist. Both, they don't contradict each other. And I think the main thing is to, like, and one thing that those kind of things, those kind of deep pains give us is a bit of empathy for other people, and allows us to access their compassion, so that if you meet somebody who's just lost the love of their life, or has had one of these crushing blows, that you get it, that you're not, just going, well, it's not real, or I'm above this all, I'm not, or you're feeling that because you were attached. Now, if you just stop being attached, you just feel, with your little heart to their little heart, I understand why it's so terrible, why it's so painful. You're trying to, your wife has died, your husband has died, you want to see them, but you can't, so it's like you're trying to attach to them, but it's not. We understand that. We can love them. And we know it's not going to bring the person back, but we can love this person who's in pain. That's all we can do, I think. So I don't know if there's a piece of the puzzle missing. I think it's too, some part of me completely resonates with this of like, it shouldn't be. I kind of get that, It's like, when you begin to study Buddhism, and they say, oh, the first noble truth is all life is suffering. I always was like, well, I'm not just going to accept that. I know there are more noble truths. There's 4 noble truths after that, or, in total. And I get it and all that. But to start off from like, well, life is suffering, it's like, oh my God, that's so fatalistic, Like when it's there, I deal with it. But I don't kind of go, I don't expect it. And in a way, I don't, it's going to sound contradictory, I don't accept it. I accept it when it's there, but I don't accept that it has to be part of my experience. Because inside, all things being equal, and particularly in meditation, particularly when I'm in the mystery, there's no heartache in the mystery. There's no crushing blows in the mystery. There's no nothing. There's no highs either. It's not euphoric and whatever. It's the absence of everything. And yet, it's home. So I know it's not, it's kind of alien, that these crushing blows, this intense suffering, I know it's alien. And my God, it's all over the news at the moment. You can't avoid it. Even if you don't watch the news, which I don't, you can't avoid seeing this intense heartbreak and this intense suffering going on. And part of me always kind of goes, this shouldn't be happening. Not that the things that cause the suffering shouldn't be happening, that's another thing, but just like this poor little child, or this poor man, or this poor woman, or whatever, my heart goes out to them, as I'm sure yours does as well. And it feels alien. It feels like I wish that wasn't the case, But then, if it is the case in my case, if it's happening to me, then I face it as best I can. And I kind of still looking at it and still seeing how it makes sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but I think it's important to face life as it is, without kind of thinking, oh, well, it's always going to be like that, because facing life as it is for me is also including the fact that I kind of go, that shouldn't be happening. That doesn't look like it doesn't resonate with me as a right thing to be happening at all. So, sorry, don't have the piece of the puzzle for you. I just have those reflections, but I hope it does help.